So it's 6 o'clock, so our time. So I guess we will kick off with a very warm welcome and thank you for your time today. So we are here for an information session on the event that will be our second iteration of Agentic AI from 0 to 1 for product managers. This is an information session. I guess what I'm going to do is we've got a bit of introduction so you know who we are and kind of a high-level view that we would love to share with you. Okay, so first things first, I guess, who are we? I'm Mondru Chakravarti. I am generally been in the industry, the technology change space, across sectors. I'm a practitioner, also a member of the Agentic Foundation, and along with Ben's, I lead the London chapter. Agentic Foundation is where we all met, including David, who we'll get to know shortly. And Ben's, it's a practitioner-led, grassroots-led organization and exploring what is possible as AI evolves around us and our roles change. That's me. So Ben's, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mondru. I'm originally a designer, and the Agentic Foundation and all the community enabled me to become a full-stack developer during the last 2 years. So I can prove it that it's possible to make the step. But we are teaching with the help of David Gretton and Ryan Smith from Vancouver, who founded 0 to 1 and made a foundational curriculum for this workshop.
Which brings us to you, David, if you want to say a few words.
Sure. Yeah. So much like a lot of people in the Agentic side, so I started working in Agentics in the summer of 2024 as part of a group that was on Reddit called Hackerspace, which became the Agentics Foundation. Ryan and I have worked well over 20 years product. I still work as a product lead for theory and practice, which is more deep machine learning than for example, FinAI, where I used to work, was doing chatbots, actually quite deep chatbots for financial institutions. And we were using transformers before chat, same ones that OpenAI were using, but before ChatGPT got launched. So I still do that work, but I do training now as well. And this actually came from a post. 0 to 1 was sort of sprung by a post back in February 2021. I was explaining to people in 2025, of what we were able to accomplish with Agentic AI, and that resulted in me being flamed by people calling me a charlatan and so forth, that there is no way that you could have done this work. It's crap code or what have you. But fortunately, I'd been in the business long enough that a number of engineers had come in and said, hey, can you show me what you're doing? Because we've tried these tools, they don't work. We're not getting what we need. There's a whole bunch of problems with it. We can't maintain the code. And so I started doing one-on-one training a year ago and 1 month ago. So 13 months ago. And then that became workshops where I started working with Ryan Smith, who had worked with Shopify and a number of other companies. And so that's how this sprung. And we've been doing workshops here in Vancouver monthly, as well as in Silicon Valley.
Thank you, David. Which brings us to a little bit to know about yourselves. So maybe David and yours, if you want to say a little bit about yourselves. So for the next few, probably 10, maximum 15 minutes, I think, between Benson and I, and we'll bring in David as well. We'll talk you through what this is about. So what we start about here is, last year, I think LinkedIn came up with this job role about a product builder that was meant to fuse product design and engineering into one powerful role. And I guess the fact that there need for different professionals or 3 degrees or 15 years or 10 years to be full stack is less of a need than the ability to translate, I guess, use AI as David, when you were talking earlier on, to create components from design to production in a very systematic way. So this was just kind of to call out that, obviously this is a bit dated, this information, and we are seeing more about product builder or concept and roles taking shape. I guess it's happening is what I was trying to allude, and it's happening fast. It's like a train. I think different people are at different spectrum, which you will see shortly. But our intent here really is very basic, to help everyone who's interested in this to get on the train. And I guess as the train progresses further, to upskill themselves, and as some of you are already doing it, be able to create value in your areas. And David, at any point in time, feel free to chip in.
Well, I think this talks really well to what David had said. It's exponent. The train's not slowing down. Things are getting very quick, are moving quicker. The purpose of the workshop is to get you on the train if you're not on the train, so that you're very confident in where this is going, and to move yourself forward in developing maintainable, deployable software.
Which is what, like we see David and has said before in Vancouver and in Silicon Valley with Ryan, the habit iteration. This is the second iteration in London. We had one at the end of March, where we similarly helped a cohort like yourself actually create something after getting on the train. So product triad, I guess this is about generally the roles of product manager, management, design, and technical, which in the past have existed separately. What we have seen initially, I guess the product manager in a design role, and this is where probably Benz, you might want to chip in, and from your experience as a design space, have merged. What we see is the fact that the design and de-risking of prototypes can happen pretty quickly. But then we still have the scale, security, and robustness of the application, for which the technical deep skills are essential, or a repeatable process is necessary for that. And I guess what this slide is trying to tell here is that we're progressively also moving into a merging of both these residual roles as well. Let me just quickly pause here just to see if Benz, you want to call out any specifics on this, or David, if you have a point here before we move into the specifics.
Yeah, it was just quickly about the design angle here. We were very siloed as a design team in different companies, and we had to hand over to development. Imagine that now you can do as a developer, or product manager, or a generic founder, or product person, you can do everything in one day. What there used to be like two months work, and you are wearing multiple hats. And if you don't have the expertise, the language models can help you out big time during the process. So we are teaching during the workshop a repeatable process, which are totally tool agnostic or provider agnostic, and future-proof to really build from scratch, even if you are never built anything before.
And thereby de-risk the project from the elements that you see on the right-hand side, which is basically not just get the product in the user's hand, but make sure that the right fitness in terms of channel market and value, the ROI, and basically technical and business feasibility. Again, goes back to the desirability, feasibility, and viability aspects of a product are enabled through the practitioner's use of the tooling. I guess there is a spectrum. I think some of you have very nicely illustrated the spectrum. So we all start at the novice at the very bottom, where we are effectively experimenting through quick prototypes, which may not be, maybe flaky, but then progressing through the bit of making them bug-free and more functional, and ultimately, getting to a stage where we all are aspiring, some of us are there to an extent, is architecting for scale and resilience. So I guess, just to repeat myself, the novice would generally, we all started at that place to say, okay, just vibe code something. Is it usable? Is it a prototype that reflects what I have in mind? And I guess through that process, we are kind of building alignment within the team. Communication is more aligned. The vision is taking shape better. And then overall, the market validation fit, I guess we can refine it better. So that is what I guess the starting stage is. I'm going a little bit quicker here, but any point in time, please feel free to stop me if you see something which prompts a question.
Can I just pause you right there, Mandeep? Yeah.
Yes.
So like this is really important, right? So the 0 to 1 the whole idea is to ensure that we move to practitioner. Right now at the novice layer, if you're using Lovable, you're using these other tools, or if you're vibe coding, you're doing a good job at that, what I'll call the novice layer. And you can make experiential prototypes, which and very rapidly, right? And those de-risk a lot of things. We use them already in software design. We've already created but now we can do it quicker, can iterate on it. It's awesome. But the 0 to 1 workshop is meant to push you into the practitioner level. It's to take you, if you have through the novice into practitioner level. And these are risks that traditionally we had to release an MVP before. You had to do an MVP before we could actually validate onboarding and channel market fit for demand, right? We had hypotheses on these, we'd have some evidence on those, but you could not deploy to prove it out. And you couldn't prove value delivery because you weren't working with actual data. And so the practitioner level is basically compressing all that risk into one fluid workflow of an individual we call the builder. And that's really what this workshop, it's going to move you into that practitioner level. And that is the requirement that we're seeing also in the industry. You need to be able to manage all of those risks as a product manager or as a builder in software teams right now.
Thank you, David. So moving on from there, is the next few slides just flow from it. I mean, I think it is reinforcing the same point about building effectively making sure things are production grade. And to give you an idea, is in the last iteration that we had in London, there was one participant who works in RPA using Blue Prism. And he said his biggest problem was in the police sector or any other sector, there's no ability to get the user's time. So a thing like an automation would take like 2 weeks or 2 months because there's no time. So he wanted I want to have a 1 hour chat and then create a mechanism through which I'm able to create the process files through conversation. And in that, so we all started, and we will show you what this process is. We started from basics. And by the time the person left, he had a fully kind of relatively working solution about his initial problem, whereby he creates the automation output that he requires. And again, it's a need that they have, but that process is the process of repeatability that they go through. Again, without going off tangent here, I guess we are talking about the way it systemizes some of the risk addresser needs around it, the process. What I want to just tail off this one before we go any further is, and Ben's feel free to chat, but I'm going to bring up something which will hopefully make it a little bit more visual for everyone. So
maybe you heard the term that you need 10,000 hours or 6 months to learn something.
Correct.
And now the time is compressed with this method and the language models.
Yeah, correct. And to put everything, because the picture is better than lots of words. I mean, this is the 8 hours that we go through. So we heard a lot thing about standardizing requirements. So requirements are like, you got product requirements, if you're familiar with the term of PRD, then there are lots of architectural decisions to be made, right? There is a lot of, implement, how do we want to choose? What is the flavor of implementation because there are lots of ways to do many things. Vibing is one, which is no process at all, to very defined guardrails. And then how do you therefore make sure that 90% of the time is actually this, right? And then how do you use the intelligence, which is either complex models or simpler models? It is agnostic, as Ben said at the very beginning. It's very agnostic. We could use open source, whatever, but there's a repeatable process to it to go through this cycle. If you look at it, in a sense, it is the SDLC, right? Through the whole planning, coding, reviewing, retrospective, but repeatable process. And then how do you do it securely as well? Because obviously a lot of data security concerns around AI. How do you do it in a manner that things are traceable? So requirements traceability, we have used Confluence, we've used GitHub Actions. There is an engineering approach to it, right? How do we do that as one individual with a lot of domain knowledge in a repeatable manner in a multiple wave format? So it's not like one build at a time, but features in sprint type or wave format. And then you have something that is deployed in an environment where people can touch and feel it. This is exactly what happened in Blue Prism. This is exactly what happened when another participant effectively created a sales enablement tool for their company using completely mock data, which they then took to their organizations on the following Monday and basically are trying to ease. So it's a real problem at the beginning with an approach that the person who's a domain expert in that area believes is the way forward. And I think we had another person who wanted to build a complete CRM with companies' house data and others. I think, Benz, you were mentoring that person.
Exactly.
So, yeah, what we do, what Benz and my role is basically to mentor people through this journey in that 8 hour. That is what this workshop is. I'll pause here just for any reflections and any comments from you, Benz and David.
Yeah, I can just, out of experience, the first half of the day is about setting up an environment. Even if you don't need to be intimidated by terminal or any kind of software that you will see for the first time, we are there to help you set up your laptop that you can then continue working at home. This is the and the planning process is also very important in the beginning, and in the afternoon we are actually building. According to the plan we created in the morning hours. So it's a very nicely standardized and repeatable process. David, anything to add?
Yeah, no, that's the core thing. So it's pretty intense, right? It's a pretty intense period of time you're going to be working. And so, we get you over the hurdle of setting up the harness and framework for your environment. So that's the core thing, which we get you over that hump, or stops a lot of people from doing the proper work. And then the afternoon is really spent on getting you like, hey, this is how proper spectrum development is done, how this framework operates, and how you can update and maintain your code. So that is the core of the course. By the end of it, you have deployed product and you have a repeatable process and access to 0 to 1 schools so that you can see every step along the way of what was the step that I missed. The core thing is that you have to build after. You're going to get a full piece and then continue to build to refine the skill. Because the one thing you'll learn is that software development is still a craft. It is not something, I just describe it and it's done. It is still a craft. What's changed is code. The code part of this course, when they run the code to run the project, 45 minutes. But it's all the work leading up to that actually matters to ensure that you get results that are near deterministic and reliable.
Exactly, and this is the most enjoyable part because you don't need to remember syntax. The boring thing will be done by the AI, but what you will enjoy the most is the building and planning and architect. David Orban, you have your hands up.
Thank you. Maybe I missed it, but is everyone building the same app, or they pick what they would like and you guide them applying what they learned in the morning?
Yes, so we have a choice. We have a standard, basically, tool that you can build like a kind of bingo app, but no one in the last session actually built that. They all build an idea in from their domain. So one was a product manager for a billing and pricing company serving the tier 1 banks basically. The second one was an entrepreneur who's trying to build a product, a kind of a master CRM for herself or for her company. The third person, interestingly, was this, among others, the third person, which really caught our eyes, is a person who was trying to, the public sector, automation, the old traditional RPA stuff, but basically the fact is that processes make this thing really tough. So he's thinking, how do I solve the problem of process, getting information in a meaningful way with this, right? So he wanted to actually build probably arguably the first integration of agentic AI into Blue Prism, right? So he said, I'm probably the first one who's actually built it. As both David Grattan and Benz were saying, and I said before, 90% of the time, or 95% of the time is the first 4 blocks here, right? That whole code, test, and deploy, that's list of it's repeatable, but the domain knowledge, like you said, you're in David. I think the gentleman Jeff, you said you're in embodied AI, right? So your domain knowledge is what matters. What is the problem you're trying to solve, and how do we do it in a very repeatable process for you, and similarly, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's very important to do your own projects, ideally, because then the motivation is much higher.
David?
Yeah.
I don't know how many slides you still have, and I don't
Not
you, of
much.
course, interfere too much. You are concentrating on one aspect of tools and how they can empower users who have been moderately technical or not at all technical before, to help them set up their computer, etc. And that is the aspect of defining and building and then shipping, deploying an app. Did you consider and discard another component of the shift that is happening, which is the reason why everything has a CLI, every API is now accessible to anyone, and it is that a lot of people needed IT in their organizations to create workflows of existing systems. And now they can use agentic tools to glue these together effectively. Some will be adventurous enough to build an entire CRM like your participant last time. But a lot of people will be frightened from that and would still greatly benefit from realizing how easy it is to connect effectively tools.
Yeah, so that's a really, so I think I referenced the real estate workshop to another person, that workshop, and that's part of parcel of that. It's not really software development, as you would say, but the core, this specific course, and it's actually, we changed it from product manager to product teams, deals with that directly, as in, this is the apex, we call it the apex agent. The coding agent is the apex agent. It's the one that actually matters the most, because it has the ability to write discrete systems. It has the ability to create other agents. And it has the ability to create documentation and link it into a process. And so there's a opinion from 0 to 1, which is, this is the core agent you need to understand. Because when you understand this agent, it opens up every other workflow that you may envision or challenge that you may encounter. But to do it, you need, right now, you need to understand this core agent, its limitations and its abilities, and the harnesses that it needs to be under. So that's the core opinion that we have, is that this is the core agent to understand, and this is the basis of it. Off of this, a number of different paths can be taken, but my personal opinion, and this is me personally, is that people misapply agents all the time in areas where they do not belong. And this is, I work in deep machine learning, and I work in transformers. So I have a strong opinion on where these should be applied. And right now, too many people are applying agents in situations they should not be applied, yet an apex agent can create the system where the system should be applied there. And that's a core understanding that I think people are not grasping. And that's why I think it's very, very important that people understand this notion of a coding agent and its role.
Find an agent.
Very nice. You're touching the right points. I'll simplify it. The way I say agent is, and this is me just taking 30 seconds just to drive this point home, is something that has a role, right? It's got a role, like, well, it's a software engineer, or it's a legal assistant. It's got a goal, like to code me this Python program, or to review that particular type of initial mortgage documents and give a view. But more importantly, it has got a set of tools. Tools, for example, access to validated databases, or ability to do a Google search, or to talk to other agents in a workflow. As long as there is something with these 3 parameters, that's an agent. Now, I think, David Orban, your question was like, you see value, as I heard you, in the ability of people to leverage the building blocks, the Lego blocks like the Lego behind me, and create something meaningful. Non-technical people who can do that. Do we encourage that? Do we show how that is possible? Absolutely, yes.
Mondweep, what you just mentioned, I think, is key. Adaptability.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, I don't remember if it was David or Benza who said, well, it is hard to keep up for anyone and everyone. Andrei Karpathy is extremely humble in telling that it is hard to keep up for himself, who is, one of the godfathers of so many of the things. So what do you feel about the evolution of your course itself? How are you revising it every time that you are delivering it? How do you pick the tools? Because it is agnostic, yes, but every time you set it up, maybe a new one is the best at the time, at that particular time.
It's so schools.0 to 1. So how about a product that's updated regularly? So you'll all have access to this portal, and that's the core teaching notes that and processes that you'll follow. We update it literally. It could be like literally an hour before the course sometimes. And it's what it comes down, like everybody's a practitioner. Like that's the core thing, is that, are we changing our practice for a new piece of work? Because stuff's happening all the time. It's not proven, we don't know. But the moment we start seeing, okay, well, we're changing our practice, or this is something that, well, first of all, that's the first layer. Are we changing our practice? Those changes go in. We have an agentic system that actually updates it really quickly, so it allows us to teach it very quickly within the process. The other thing that we look at is there been like a major upgrade to something that is actually going to break or change what we did. So to put this in perspective, a year and a half ago, we didn't teach Claude Code because Claude Code didn't exist. We used Rue and Climb, which is two different tools. But everything that we taught during those times were...
Yeah, it's very important that you mentioned community. So at 0 to 1, you're gonna get access to the Slack channel for mentoring. It's not just on the day, but later. And you get access to the curriculum as well. So if you missed a step during the day, you can have a backup material online 24/7. The other thing I wanted to mention is the brownfield project. We always speak about greenfield projects, starting from scratch. But if you have an old repo or a 20 or 10-year-old project that you abandoned and you want to start again, it's possible as well with this method. So it's not just new, and you can have a 20-year-old tech stack. Imagine, and that's possible to pick it up again.
Yeah, just I know it's not here. We've got to add this to the slide, and I'm sorry I haven't. But like we've given these workshops to corporations as well. A lot of local ones that you would not have heard of, but you would have heard of Boeing and you would have heard of Asana. So we give these workshops, corporate workshops, and we've just been approved to publish our Asana case study. So you can see that this is quite in-depth and detailed. I'll be publishing it to the 0 to 1 website, or I can give it to you guys via email. I can't drop it into, I just realized I can't attach an attachment to this chat for some reason, which is weird. But I'll send it to Bent, and I'll send it to you guys, and you guys can distribute it to the people that have been here, just to talk about the impact that this training does have.
Right.
So it will be overwhelming.
That is a very important point you mentioned, Vince. Go tell us more about that overwhelming thing, please. Yeah.
On the day and after, you must feel overwhelmed. So very, like smashed, like after a 5-hour gym session. But that's a good thing, and it will be cleared, and then it will become a everyday habit building with this method.